Good evening, everyone. Oh, guys. Do you know how far away it is from where me and my family currently sleep to Manchester? It's quite far. So I'm going to need a better hello. Do you know what I mean? To encourage me. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm just going to give this microphone to my wife while I smoothly segue and get this microphone for myself. Have you had a good week? I know it's austerity and everything, times are tough, but have you had a good week? How many of you are students? God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Keep studying. It will probably help you in your life. How many of you are working? God bless you. God bless you. How many of you wish you were a student or working? God bless you. No, seriously, God bless you. This weekend is all about love and relationships. How many of you could do with some help in your love and relationships? Raise your hand then. I guess apparently they know what they're doing. How many of you have friends who could do with some help? You all know a few people who should be here. Okay, take notes for them. Okay, take notes for them. This weekend is called Crazy in Love. Crazy in Love. Now this was not in any way inspired by Beyonce and Jay-Z in any way. There's absolutely no connection between the title and her song. There actually is. But this weekend is not about them. This weekend is actually about the craziest couple in the Bible. You do know there are some crazy couples in the Bible. Okay. The craziest couple in the Bible, Jacob and Leah. Any Jacobs in the house? Any Leahs? I already know the answer to that. So. It's not about them, it's about Jacob in the house, in the Bible. And so this week we're going to be having a look at their relationship. We're going to be using their relationship as a lens or a metaphor to understand the relationships in our life. Now, whether you are currently married, or you are currently in a relationship, or you are single, if you are alive, it means that at some point, two people came together and related. And because of their relationship, you exist. So wherever you are in the spectrum, whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're married, whether you've been married and you're no longer married, it doesn't matter where you are, this weekend is going to be applicable to you. So we're going to start with a brief icebreaker activity. I said the unmagic word. You should never say.
Never introduce yourself.
Never say this is an icebreaker.
That's just a tip for your ministry.
Yeah, there you go. We're going to start with a brief activity. And what this activity is that I need you to turn to the person or the persons next to you. And listen carefully. I need you, as far as you're comfortable, I need you to share with them the story of how your parents got together. If you know. Some of us have never been told.
If you're sitting beside siblings, find someone else.
Okay? So I want you to try and look back and remember how it happened. We'll give you 2 minutes. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Now I recognize that in a group of people this size, with as many of us as there are here tonight, it's entirely possible that a few of us may have some painful stories about how our parents got together. And so if I have brought up some painful memories for you, I apologize. But at the same time, there are probably some pretty interesting, pretty funny, fairly healthy stories in a group of this size. So I wonder if there are just one or two people who, if your partner told you a really interesting story, something that made you smile, something that made you laugh, would you be willing to share that story with the group? You don't have to use their name in case they're trying to keep their stuff private, but just tell us the story of how their parents got together. Anyone wants to share with us? Okay. Open the mic to you.
My partner mentioned that the mom thought it's a good idea to set up the dad with her best friend, and things backfired, so they ended up in a date together.
That's slick. Wow. Where was that? What country did that happen? Was that in the UK or?
We took it so deep.
Okay. Well, I don't know where your parents are from, but the women there, that's slick. Set them up with your friend. Write that down, ladies. Write that down. Anybody else? Anyone else have a story? Come on. I've seen your selfies on Facebook. You're not shy. Alright, I'll let Jodi tell her parents one thing. This is really good.
My mom was working at a little... Have you ever seen that show, Diners, Drive-Ins and Dives?
Yeah.
That Food Channel show?
Wow. Triple D got hit. Wow.
Of course. Yeah, she worked in a dive, basically. It's a little cafe place in Alabama. And she was about 16, I think she was. And very outgoing, very lively, very social. My father is exactly the opposite of that. Incredibly quiet, painfully shy. Do you know what I mean? Be painfully shy? I mean, like, to speak words to another human caused him just so much stress. So, but he was captivated by this very bright, bubbling young woman. And so he kept coming to this little greasy place over and over and over and over, and he kept getting ice cream floats, I think it was. And he kept bringing he brought his friend with him all the time. His friend was quite outgoing. So his friend starts flirting with my mom, and it seems like they're going to hit it off. And my dad's getting a little bit worried. He's been, trying this for a long time. And then finally, I can't remember exactly. I think his friend was the one who told my mom that my dad liked her. She was like, "What? Can he speak?" I didn't think he could say anything. And very painfully, she started talking to him and got him to open up a little bit. And then they kind of dated for a little while. And one day he called her on the phone and he said, I was talking to my mom and she thinks it's a good idea. What do you think? She said, "What are you talking about?" He said, to get married. She thinks I think that would be a good idea. Don't you think so? She was like, "Sure." So that was the romantic proposal my mom got. Not nearly as romantic as mine.
I'll tell them about the later thing. Keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Alright, anyhow, so my parents met at some sort of a camp meeting or Pathfinder. How many of you are Pathfinders? You've been Pathfinders? Listen, that stuff is not just about tying knots. Just trying to help them. Anyway, they met at some sort of camp, and back in the day, my mom was from Brixton Church. Any Brixton people here? It's like two of you. Brixton people get everywhere. It's like a virus. My dad was from Holloway. A good virus. A good virus. Don't start thinking there are no good viruses. Just go with it. A good virus. Okay, my dad was from Holloway. And so you know how back in the day, still today, like different churches have their crews, so like the Holloway crew all rolled up, and then like the Brixton crew all up, and then somehow, I don't know, there was some sort of interaction, they met each other. But back in the day, my dad had loads and loads of friends, and many of them happened to be girls. Okay, so my mum didn't want to just be one of the friends. So what she said was, if you want to be my friend, you have to not be friends with any other girls. That's it. Just lock it up. And so it took her a few days to figure it out, but he did. And then they started dating, and then they got married, and then they did the best thing they could possibly have done, which was get married and stay married. But we had 4 kids, like me and my siblings, and that's how my parents were together. Now here's the thing. Like we said, if you exist, if you are alive, at some point, 2 people related, and that's why you're here. But here's the thing, because of that original relationship, there are going to be some realities, some challenges, some strengths that you have that are based on your family. Because none of us can choose our family, right? You can't choose your family. You just are born to the family you're born in. And so this afternoon, this evening, we want to just start off by talking a little bit about the crazy family cycle. If you or I are ever going to have healthy relationships, we're going to have to learn to recognize that some of the things that we might do in our relationships that are unhealthy are actually a part of a bigger cycle, a bigger story. And so we want to just start by talking about the story of Jacob's family, okay? So we're going to read a few, wow, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see it? Okay, it's just small back there. Leo Tolstoy says, you read that thing?
All happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way.
Yes. We just put that in so that you can be smart. Okay, let's move on. No, it's actually a really powerful quote, right? Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own unique way. And some of you will understand that. Let's look at the story of Jacob. If you have your Bibles, you can either open them or swipe, because I know that some Bibles swipe these days. So swipe in your Bible to Genesis chapter 24, and we're going to read just the first 4 verses. Genesis 24, 1, 2, 4. You can't wait because it's fun. Okay.
Abraham was now very old, and the Lord blessed him in every way. He said to the senior servant in his household, the one in charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife from my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I am living, but will go to my country and my own relatives and get a wife from my son Isaac." Do you know the story? Do you know the story? This is a story about how Isaac met who?
Rebecca, just say. Yes. Like, Rebecca.
Yes. Isaac met Rebecca. Do you remember when they first saw each other? Yeah, like you were there.
She has count.
I had to tell you.
You have to have a count. Correct.
Yeah, he saw her, and it was love at first sight. And the Bible says she's very beautiful, and she comforted him when his mother died, who he was very close to.
This is the story that messes us up a little bit, Christian Adventists, because like when Abraham sent his servant to meet her, and she said yes, but they gave her earrings and stuff, it just like messes us up. But anyway, that's a whole nother, that's just another weekend. All right.
So they lived happily ever after.
Is that what happened?
You sure?
I mean, this is the perfect couple. I mean, God literally chose the right one. I mean, everything's perfect. So what goes wrong? Let's have a look at Genesis 25, verses 20 to 26. We'll skip that. We've already talked about. The next verse on there is just about the stuff that they made each other and they looked at each other and he loved them and all that good stuff. Genesis 25, verses 20 to 26. Okay, Let me read it. It says, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, from Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. The babies jostled each other within her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger." When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red. His whole body was like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. So Isaac was how old when he got married?
40.
How old was he when he had his kids?
60.
So for 20 years, Rebekah, the most beautiful person that he had ever seen, was unable to do anything with her beauty productive. Anything productive with her beauty. Now, of course, you might say, that sounds really politically incorrect. But you have to understand, in the ancient world, and actually scientists today have discovered this, that most of the things that we think of as attractive in the opposite sex are really cues about fertility. Okay, so most of what we find attractive as men about women are really like biological cues that are supposed to show their ability to reproduce, and vice versa, same with men, right? So here's the thing. In that day, if you married someone, if they were beautiful, you married them, you paid the dowry, all that good stuff, I mean, one of the main things was you need to have some kids. I know you can talk to each other and hold hands and walk in the park, but at the end of the day, we don't have no kids. We have some issues. So for 20 years, guys, I want you to feel this thing. For 20 years, he's married to the most beautiful person, but the promise that her beauty represents is unfulfilled. Now, if any of you have been in a situation where you have been trying for a child for a while, you know through personal experience the strain that can place in a relationship. So the first 5 years is all cool, we're young, we're just having fun, but after 10 years, 15 years, it starts to become the unspoken thing at every situation. Every time you have to go to the baby shower of your cousin, right, who's 15 years younger than you. You know what I'm saying? It's always reminded. You're always reminded. Every time you have to go to somebody's circumcision service, you're always reminded. And so it gets to the point where apparently it's so bad that Isaac prays to God. Now, I'm not sure why the man of God had been praying before. Maybe he had. We aren't told. But finally, he prays to God, and God gives them, he opens her womb, and he gives them 2 sons. So now, surely, they've got the sons they want. Surely now it's happily ever after, right? Okay, what happens next?
Verse 27, the boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was content to stay home among the tents. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Do you remember another story in the Bible about a barren woman? What about Isaac's mother? Who's Isaac's mother? Sarah. It's Sarah. Remember, Sarah was barren as well.
She was also pretty hot.
Yeah, she was quite beautiful too.
And also
And so this is running in their family. And now we have another case of favoritism, which you also have. Remember, Isaac was favored by his father and over Ishmael. And so now his dad favors Esau. Now he favors Esau over Jacob, and Rebekah favors Jacob. I don't know. I'm not going to ask. You don't have to raise your hands. Your parents might be here. But have you ever felt like maybe one of your siblings was the favorite?
I've never been a favorite in our family, just saying. Wasn't me, just saying.
Every time the favorite is it's talked about in my family, my sisters immediately, oh, definitely Jodi, which puts me in a very awkward position to say, no, my parents didn't love me more. It's very strange. It's a difficult position to be in. It's a difficult thing to grow up with, knowing openly your father just says, I love your brother more than you. He's way cooler than you. He can do a lot more stuff than you. He's a real man. What do? You just stay home with the tents.
With the tents.
And the tents with your mother.
Can you kill animals with arrows? No, I don't think you can.
That's a difficult thing to grow up with.
And here's the messed up thing, right? The messed up thing is that, like, there's actually been a prophecy from Jesus that Jacob should be the one, right? So his dad, who is a prophet, is openly disregarding the prophecy because he likes Esau better. Now, how confusing would that be? I mean, just think about that. Your dad's praying and leading the worship, and after it, oh God of the heavens, after he gets down to go and contradict everything he says he believes. Some of us have grown up in families where we have parents who act a certain way spiritually in public, but then when we get home, so Jacob has to grow up this, right? So now we have a situation in the family where not only did Isaac and Rebekah's relationship, not only was it strained by the barrenness, but now they have taken sides, they made coalitions. Jacob with his mother, Esau with his father, and now the two children have been pitted by the parents against each other. You can see that that's a really bad situation in the family. Let me read the next verse here.
Chapter 6 to 10.
Alright, here's what it says. So Isaac stayed in shame. That's really embarrassing. I just changed Bible. This is why you should always have a real Bible. Just saying. Don't even get it. Alright, so you can laugh, it's okay. Okay. So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men of that place asked him about his wife, he said, she is my sister, because he was afraid to say, she is my wife. He thought the men of this place might kill me on account of Rebekah, because she is beautiful. When Isaac had been there a long time, let's read that again, a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. So Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, she is really your wife. Why did you say she is my sister? He answered him, because I thought I might lose my life on account of her. Such a gentleman. I mean, if there's one thing you want in a husband, it's someone who, in case of danger, will run away. I mean, that's the guy, right? That's how you know you found the one. When he'll say, oh, babe, say you're my sister, yeah? Don't let anyone know what you're getting, yeah? Right. Then Abimelech said, what is this you have done to us? One of the men might well have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us all. Now, this is a ridiculous story, but it's not as ridiculous. It sounds, does not sound familiar? Like, he learned this from his dad. Right? His dad, I wish I had time to talk about this, but his dad, he lied about his wife, and he got money because the king of Egypt thought she was his sister, and the Bible says the king of Egypt took her to be his wife. Now, I don't know, how we can break that down in modern language, but all I know is that the Bible says, for a time, Sarah was an Egyptian wife, and Abraham got money. Now, that sounds like PIMP to me, but however you want to interpret that. So he learned this from his dad. He's repeating the very same thing. The Bible says it was a long time. So it was like a couple days. It was like several years. So in other words, Jacob grew up in a house where he was taught, anyone asks who she is, just say, I'm your uncle, because, no one can know. That's it. Some of us have grown up in families where there's some crazy secrets. Your grandmother is really your mother, but you can't say it because, all kinds of, and you're living with some crazy secrets. I'm just trying to say, there's hope for you in the scriptures. I'm just trying to say. Okay. So what are we trying to say? We're basically trying to set this through, and we don't have time tonight to bring this to the conclusion, but here's the point. When Jacob met Rachel, and he saw her and he fell in love with her, and he wanted to marry her, he was bringing all these issues from his family of origin into the relationship. And the same is true with you. The story is never boy meets girl. It's boy plus all his family issues meets girl plus all her family issues. And if you're ever going to have a successful relationship, you're going to have to learn to be able to understand and to own the things that have happened to you. So now I want to share with you just a little bit of light Friday night psychology and science. We're going to talk about healthy and unhealthy families. Everyone's family, every family of origin is different, but there are some key things that can help us to understand how healthy or how unhealthy your family was. Now, this isn't about cussing anyone's parents or anything, but this is just about being honest about where we come from. No one has been born into a perfect family, right? See, they just don't believe. So any perfect people, perfect families? Alright, so let's talk about it.
Okay, so if you look over to the left, these are some characteristics of a healthy family, okay? This is research that's been done by psychologists where they study families that were healthy and unhealthy, and these are some characteristics that they have in common. Okay, they are balanced, alright? They can adapt to change. When something difficult happens, someone has to move, someone gets a new job, anything like that, they can adapt to that and everything doesn't just shut down. Okay? No one goes into depression, no one leaves, that kind of thing. They deal with each other directly. That's really important. If you look over at the unhealthy side at the very bottom, an unhealthy way of communicating is indirectly or through a messenger. I don't know if you grew up in a family like this or not, but...
Sarah, go tell your mother
that
we're late for church.
Yeah.
Sarah, tell your father that I'm busy ironing his shirt. Sarah, you tell your mother that this is the Sabbath day of the Lord and she should have ironed it on Friday. Sarah, can you tell your father if I didn't have to work till 7 p.m. on a Friday because he didn't make enough money, then maybe I could, Sarah.
It can just keep going and keep going. But I notice it most within relationships between fathers and daughters. Often the father will send the mother to tell the daughter the thing that he wants her to know. And you can always tell that it's happened because the mother's not really completely in it. So she's just the messenger. So we wanted to tell you that we think that you should come home by 10 or whatever it is. It's a message from the other parent to the other. This goes through a mediary. Oftentimes one person in the family ends up becoming that messenger. And it's a really difficult job to have. Nobody likes the messenger. And that person usually gets a pretty bad deal with it. Differences are accepted and encouraged. You don't have to be the same. Differences are accepted and encouraged. Thoughts and feelings are also accepted. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel right, of course. It's okay to feel sad about something. Those emotions are okay. You can also learn from each other and encourage feedback. Those are some healthy characteristics.
Oh yeah.
Let's go back to that.
Okay, let's talk about the unhealthy characteristics. So, different feelings and opinions are not expressed. Did you grow up in a family where there was one way of thinking and feeling? And if you thought differently, you learned to keep it inside because otherwise you'd get, if not in trouble, you'd get belittled or your feelings or your opinions were not accepted. Don't talk about problems, right? Don't shame the family, right? That was a big one for me growing up. Don't leave this house. I bring shame. Right? So no matter how crazy it is inside, once we leave, you better put that happy side with a smile on your face. You better put that thank you Jesus in your handshake, and you better not let anyone know that before we got to the parking lot, words were said that were not found in the Bible. But once we get out, Jesus, this is the way. The truth and the life. Right? So we learn this. We learn these behaviors. Don't shame the family, right? Don't do anything like that. Be perfect. Help us, Holy Ghost. Christian Adventists, we have a tendency towards wanting to be perfect. Preach. We'll try to stay calm, right? We have a tendency towards this, right? And we can have a discussion about the theological concept of perfection within the context of soteriology, blah, 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 blah. But how it looks like in our family situation is that it's not just morally perfect. It's not just like perfect to meet Jesus. You have to have perfect grades. Right? B plus is what you call B plus. You know? You could be dyslexic, you have to figure it out. Right? You have to be perfect in your relationships. So what happens is you meet someone you like, you're like, there's no way I can bring them home to death. We'll just have a secret relationship that no one knows about. Because if anyone knew we were dating, one of us would die. So, you know.
This starts to come into your life when you're very young. This be perfect thing. We struggle with this with our own children because we grew up trying to be perfect. So this comes in, you know, your child spills something accidentally on the floor. And and that kind of reaction, that tells the child, even though that was an accident, that is not okay. I have to be perfect to get my parents' acceptance. Okay? So it comes in very young and it follows us through. It makes us afraid to try new things because we're afraid we might fail at it. It's a rule in a lot of unhealthy families.
Control. Unhealthy families are controlling. And sometimes they control through guilt. Jesus is watching.
This is huge in my family. You have no idea. Not the Jesus thing. It was huge through emotional manipulation. Okay?
That's just going to hurt my feelings if you do that. But God, if you really want to, but that would make you so sad.
Well, I'll just be all by myself, but you go out with your friends, that's fine. Oh, my whole life I lived through that. And it created major feelings of bitterness.
If not guilt, threats. If you come in here, why? Threats. Or fear or pity, right? Also, not playful. Unhealthy families don't know how to play. Everything's always serious all the time. There's not a lot of laughter, not a lot of silliness, not a lot of, you know, tickling daddy and he's giggling on the floor. Everything is. Right? Now, every family has parts that are healthy and parts that are unhealthy. But here's the thing. To the extent that your family of origin was unhealthy, you will necessarily bring some of this into any relationship that you may be in or may be going into in the future. Let's read you some other way. I just love me some Ellen. Anyone else love some Ellen? This lady was so leveled up spiritually, it's scary. Here are some things she writes back in 18 who knows when about parenting, about how we should train our children. Because a lot of us, the way that we were trained, somehow, whether indirectly or directly, we kind of figured the reason why this is happening is because the Bible and Ellen White said so. And then I read the Bible with Ellen White and discovered that it was just what they were doing. Okay? So let me just read this to you, okay? This is what she says. To direct the child's development without hindering it by undue control. By what? Okay, so she's saying you should help the child's development, but not by undue control. Should be the study of both parent and teacher. Too much management. Too much what? 7 o'clock, Bible study. 7:30, read a book. 8 o'clock, brush your teeth. 8:30, prepare for bed. 8:45, final Bible study. Too much management is as bad as too little. Now here's what's deep. Some of us grew up in families where we were told the reason why we're doing this is so that you won't be like those, sorry, did I say white? I didn't say white. You will not be like those other people whose kids are all in the street at any time of night, running riot. Right? In America, you know, everyone runs riot. Can we all agree? We won't be like those Americans. Right? But she's saying too much is as bad as too little. Because how many of us know that as soon as you leave that environment, you come to university, someone say Manchester, and no one can see, you go all kinds of wild. Isn't that elder so-and-so's daughter? Yes, it is. But he ain't here. Pierce everything, you know, pierce the knee, ankle, ring, just pierce everything, you know, just, why? Too much is bad as too little, right? Okay, keep moving. The effort to break the will of a child is a terrible mistake. We should never, like some of us have been taught that, you're going to sort of break them, so no. She says you can't, that's a terrible mistake. Okay.
Yes, minds are constituted differently. While force may secure outward submission, the result with many children is a more determined rebellion of the heart. Even should the parent or teacher succeed in gaining the control he seeks, the outcome may be no less harmful to the child. Too few realize the importance of retaining, as far as possible, their own youthful feelings and not becoming harsh and unsympathizing in their nature. Too few, talking about parents, realize the importance of retaining, as far as possible, their own youthful feelings, not becoming harsh and unsympathizing in their nature. God would be pleased to have parents mingle the graceful simplicity of a child with the strength, wisdom, and maturity of manhood and womanhood. Some never had it in their child.
So she's saying that as a parent, you need to be more childlike. I'm struggling with this myself as a parent. Learning how to come down to the level of my children and not constantly to bring them up to my level. You know? So annoying what you do. Be more like me. No. You're 3. I should be on the floor with you. You know? Licking your shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm just a bit unhygienic, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it hasn't killed them yet. And let's be honest, right? How many people have actually died from licking a spoon that's on the floor? Like, how many recorded deaths? But the way some of us go on, it's like, there's like, the unpardonable sin, and then licking a spoon. Some of us just need to loosen up, need to relax. And so if you were raised in a family where they didn't understand this spirit of prophecy directive, then you may have some issues. Right.
Often what happens in unhealthy families as the different people in the family develop these roles that they play, okay? These are different roles that you take on as children. One of them is the hero, okay? The hero is the one in the family who does everything right. They took on this be perfect thing and they ran with it. Good grades, they're great at sports, they're very polite, they're good in Sabbath school, they answer all the Sabbath school questions to get promoted. Somebody we know. This happened to be a role that Jonathan and I both took on. And then we got married, so God help us. So this is one of the roles that people take on. The scapegoat is the one who all of the problems of the family get pushed onto this person. They often seem absolutely crazy, right? But they're usually the healthiest person in the family.
This is the sibling who does the thing that no one's supposed to do, 3 or 4 times with 5 or 6 different people. And then it's just like, everyone in the family's perfect, and then there's the brother Sam, who's got like green hair. 3 kids with 4 different women. And, you just look at his parents and his siblings, and you're like,
You're often trying to bring attention. You bring a younger child family, you're often trying to bring attention to the problem. If you pay attention to this one child in the perfect family who's messed up, you're going to find some issues in the family. There's the lost child. This is the one who just says, yeah, you guys are crazy, and I'm just going to do my own thing over here. They become very independent. They withdraw. They don't really.
Very quiet.
They get very quiet. They don't get in anybody else's business. They just do their own thing and they back off.
And you discover, like, they're pretty quiet, and then, like, you know, a famous singing artist in Japan, like, no one in the family knew. They say, oh, secret. You can speak Russian?
You got the fixer, okay? The fixer is the person who makes sure everything stays the same. Everything stays the way. But even if everything is crazy, they try to keep things, they kind of keep a balance, right? This happens a lot in families when someone has an addiction. And whatever the addiction is, say it's alcoholism, the dad comes home, he gets drunk, he breaks everything. Whoever this fixer is, it can be the mom, it can be a child. They're the one who cleans it up, makes sure everything looks okay the next day, make sure they call into work for them, oh, they're sick. You know, they keep everything at this equilibrium, even though it's an unhealthy situation that's happening.
Then you have the clown. This is the person who responds to the craziness in the family through doing funny, silly, extravagant things, and they provide like much needed relief and attention. And so often they're the person who don't really take seriously, but that's a role. So the point that we're saying here is that in unhealthy families, and as you heard this list, perhaps you recognize yourself in one or two of them, or your siblings in one or two of them. These are roles that we take on, and here's the key take-home point. The reason we take them on is because there's something unhealthy at the core of the family relationship. This is a sign, this is a symptom that everything is not okay.
In these unhealthy families, often what happens is there are these basic love needs, is what we're going to call them. There's basic needs that every child has as they're growing up. And sometimes they don't get met within unhealthy families, and different things, it can form you in different ways, okay? So we're going to go through these quickly. I want you to pay attention to them. We're going to talk about them again later. We're kind of going to move along with this, okay? The first one is affection and nurture, okay? Affection, hugs, kisses. I should get you guys to come out and do this one. We did this for them in Coventry. Yeah.
How many Coventry people in the house?
Yes, affection, hugs, kisses, that kind of a thing. If it's met, you have a basic trust in your parents and other people. You have a warmth, a spontaneity. Unmet, you end up with a lack of trust. You can be very cold, you can be very performance-oriented. Okay?
So if you grew up in a family where there was not much affection, the bottom line might describe some of your own personality traits. Alright, the next one is affirmation, okay? That's being told that you were beautiful. That's being told that you were smart, you were important, that what you did mattered, where you were firm. If you have affirmation in your family, then you grow up with self-respect, dignity, and healthy self-esteem. If not, you live with shame. You can become either needy or reject needs. So either you're the needy person or I don't need no one. I'm okay by myself. Right? Or you can have a victim mentality. How many of you remember Mario Balotelli? Why always me? Right? You can think that it's always happening to you. Okay? If you didn't have this affirmation, you can become self-righteous. If I get one or two amens. And judgmental. You know no one like that in your church. You know no. There are no people in our church who are self-righteous or judgmental.
And then there's just attention. Attention is just spending time with you, playing with you. When you come, mommy, 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 pulling on the trouser or the skirt to stop, pay attention to the child. That's what the attention is. If it's met, then you know that it's okay to be a child, it's okay to have desires, and you feel like you're an enjoyable person to be with. That kind of makes sense, right? Unmet, it can be difficult for you to play, you can be overly serious, and you can be narcissistic, thinking always about yourself or have no desires. This is the difficulty with playing the over-serious. Jonathan, when he was a little boy, everyone told him he was a little old man. He was just a very serious child.
I've stayed that way.
He did loosen up a little bit, right? And he's always had a difficulty with this one, a difficulty with play. When we first learned this, it's an about eye-opening thing for him to realize, actually, that's true. I didn't get a lot of attention.
Yeah. And that is out ministering to the needs of everybody in their cat. There's less time for him to be at home with you. This is something that, I don't know if there are any PKs in the room, But not just be case if you have a dad or a mum who shift work or whatever their job is, they're just real busy all the time, you could have struggled with that. Now let's be clear on this. These needs are needs that psychologists have discovered that all children have a need for as they grow, as they develop. And if these needs are not met during this early developmental period, say between the age of about 1 and 7, then it leaves an indelible hole or mark in that person for the rest of their life. And what can happen is that you end up going into relationships subconsciously looking for what was not met in childhood in that person. So no one ever paid attention to you, and then some guy comes along who has got nothing going on between here and here at all. And his life is just ridiculous, but he just keeps calling you, saying, "I think you're so amazing." And you just twist your head. You just can't. Why? Because you've never had that. Right? Some guy who's never had much affection, some girl comes along, she's always hugging and upping you and rubbing you and just loving you, and you know, it just twists your head. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be aware that some of the people that you are attracted to, it might not so much be that they're great, but it might be that it seems that they meet something in you that has not been met before. Protection. Sorry. Give me another Alex. Oh, okay. If you had protection as a child, right? This is a lovely. If you had protection, then if your parents were the sort of people who made sure that, you know, they only allowed you to be around healthy people. You weren't like every day after school, you were at a different auntie's house who wasn't really related to you, and there was all kind of weirdness going on. And no, they actually made sure there were boundaries. You couldn't just have any old kind of friends. That was meant, and you have security, you have morality, you have a sense of right and wrong. You understand personal boundaries, and you know that it's okay to talk about problems. But if it was not met, you could have a lot of fear. You can just be a person who's just fearful in general. You have difficulty with your conscience. You have a hard time knowing what's right and wrong. You can have poor boundaries, so people take advantage of you. You maybe have friends like this, you just don't understand, why do you let people treat you that way? It could be that as children they didn't have much protection, so now as adults or young adults, they don't know how to protect themselves, right? And you often have the don't talk rule. Because if you're in a family where all kinds of craziness is going on, guaranteed they're saying, don't tell anyone, because if people find out what's happening, you know, like sometimes in families where mom and dad are not together, if your dad knows this is happening, he's going to come and take you away, so you just run into the secret, right? And so you learn that. So when you grow up, you have problems, but you just don't talk about it. And that obviously is not good in a relationship.
And then there's discipline. Do you know discipline is a lovely?
I know that Caribbean children know.
I'm not talking about abuse.
Just plain.
Talking about discipline. There's a real love need for discipline. Okay, setting boundaries for your children, helping them to understand what they can and cannot do. If that is met, you end up with a balance of mercy and justice, a sense of fairness, and a release from guilt. Now that's very interesting. When I first learned about love needs, this was the one that stood out to me. I always lived in this constant nagging guilt all the time within me, this feeling of guilt that I always had, and I never understood why. But when I read this, I thought, oh, well, it makes perfect sense. I had no discipline, very little as a child, very little discipline. Even as I got older, I had no curfew, I could do whatever I wanted, I was a good kid, they trusted me. No, not all Americans, especially not Southern ones. But, and so I always had this sense of guilt, because if you do something wrong, you're disciplined for it, it's done, it's gone. But I never got that. So I did something wrong, and I knew it was wrong, and I figured they probably knew it was wrong, but there was nothing that ever happened, so it just kind of lingered. There was no resolution to it. You can also end up being bitter, you can rebel against authority, and you can end up with this lingering guilt that I had.
Comfort. If you didn't receive a lot of comfort at home, if when you cried, you were not encouraged to cry, you know, if your feelings were not taken into account, then that is a love need that was unmet. If it was met, then you have the ability to forgive, you can have compassion and empathy, and you know that it's okay to feel, it's okay to have feelings. If it's unmet, you can have a difficulty with forgiveness, you can have blocked feelings and a lack of compassion. This would really resonate with me when I first learned this. And I think with a lot of guys in general, as we grow up, we generally are given less comfort than our sisters. As a young boy, if you hurt yourself, you're told, man, don't cry about it, tough it out, you know? And then we're kind of raised that way. And so ladies, this is why when you meet us as adults, then you spend your whole next rest of your life, why won't he share his feelings? Why won't he just tell me what he feels? It's because he learned not to feel, right? Gents, some of us have a real difficulty with forgiveness, right? You step on my trainers, scratch my iPhone, you have to go outside, right? Even in our marriage, I always joke, I am excellent at saying sorry second. Like, I will say I'm sorry second every time. Every time. But to say it first, that was hard, man. Admit that you were wrong. Right? If you didn't learn, if you weren't shown comfort, this is something you could struggle with.
And you don't really, when you struggle with that, you don't understand what you're feeling. Which is really difficult.
Thank you for running. Let me tell you that real quick. So we were learning about this, and they were telling us about stress. And here's the thing: some of you who know me, you may have even heard me say this. I don't get stressed. I still understand stressed people. Like around exam time, it's stressful. I was like, just calm down, everyone. It's just not that big a deal. And then in this class, they started telling us the symptoms of a stressed person, right? And a stressed person is a person who, they don't sleep very well, they stay up real late, they generally overeat, they generally procrastinate, they put things off. And I was like, why do all those things? Oh gee, I'm stressed. But I didn't feel it. I had like zero feeling of it, but I had all the symptoms, and I discovered that just because you are aware that you are experiencing something doesn't mean you're not actually experiencing it. So there are some people who are living with anger, and they just think they're okay, but they have all the signs, they're tense, they don't trust people, and it's anger-based and stuff they experience as a child, but because they haven't learned to feel, they don't actually know what's happening. So,
and then the last one is guidance. This is just generally, this is not telling you what to do, this is helping you to decide what to do on your own. There's a difference, helping you to learn how to make choices. And if that's met, you have an appreciation for experience, a respect of parents and elders, and a sense of direction. And if not, you can have difficulty reasoning from cause to effect. You can have self-dependence and an indecisiveness. These are people who go to uni and change their major. Course 3 or 4 times. They have no idea what they're doing. They don't know what to choose because their whole life their parents are the ones who told them, you go here, you do this, you eat that, you study here, you meet this person, and so they've never had to make choices for their own. So when they have to, they have no idea what to do.
So we're almost at the end of tonight's session. Basically, as we said before, this is not about condemning your parents, but it's about understanding the cards you have been dealt, okay? All of us have been dealt cards in our life, right? And if you don't know the hand that you have, then you can be playing cards that just make no sense. You know, so imagine if you will, the person is playing a game of cards, blackjack or whatever, and the cards are all turned the wrong way round. They can't see what's on them. There's no way, you have very little chance of winning the game. Unless you turn them over and you actually see what you have. Maybe it was a great hand, maybe it wasn't a good hand, but if you at least know what it was, you can then start to think, okay, how can I best maximize what I have? And so this isn't about condemning parents, this is just about helping you to understand, okay, here is what I experience, here's what I bring to the table when I enter a relationship.
This verse from Isaiah is very interesting. It says, listen to me, you who pursue righteousness. Are you pursuing righteousness? You who seek the Lord, are you trying to seek the Lord? Yeah, well, he's talking to those 3 people. Look to the rock from which you were cut, and to the quarry from which you were hewn. Okay? It goes on to talk about looking back at Abraham. He's saying, look from where you came from. If you're trying to seek the Lord, you need to know where you came from and why you are the way you are. Or you're just going to keep making messed up decisions over and over and over again because you don't understand what you're dealing with.
Okay, so basically we have 4 minutes. Did I don't know who we should speak to. Did you guys print the love needs paper? Yeah. So we want you guys to do an exercise. We have some handouts for you of the love needs, and what we want you to do is we want you to look. This actually may be homework. How many of you are going to be here tomorrow? All of you, most of you, okay? Most of the time this may be homework. What we may ask you to do is take it home and do it there. Basically to look over the different love needs. And we want you to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, to what extent was this need met? 1 being not at all, 10 being absolutely perfect. I'm sure for most of us we won't have the 1s or 10s. We'll be somewhere in the middle. But just rate it for yourself. And then we just want you to write out on the back what the implications are for you. This is, if you do this, I know most of you won't do this, but a few of you will do this, and this will actually really help you. It may even change the course of your life and of your relationships. If you can understand your profile and the implications for you specifically of the love needs that were unmet, you might save yourself many, many years of hardship, many failed relationships, many failed attempts at connecting with people. So it's being handed out to you now. As it's being handed out, we're just going to leave an instruction on the screen. Here's the reason why I'm sharing all of this with you tonight. So let's just explain the exercise again one more time. You have the full list of the love needs there. We want you to take it home, spend 10-15 minutes, rate each one from 1 to 10, and then on the back write down the implications for you. What these implications are for you in your personality. Here's the big takeaway for tonight, right? We all have unmet love needs. All of us. How many of us? We all have unmet love needs. So we unconsciously, subconsciously, look for someone to meet those needs. But any person you find has unmet needs of their own. We are subconsciously looking for someone to meet our needs, but that person has unmet needs. And so what happens in many relationships is that people are trying to draw on something that is not there in the other person, and the other person is trying to draw on something that's not there in you. And so once you get over the hump of the infatuation stage, and you discover that they have some real issues, you break up, and you hope maybe the next one will be better. Right?
The truth is that no other person will ever be able to meet your unmet needs. Ever. Okay?
Ever.
And through the rest of this weekend, we're going to talk more about how you can get those needs met. Needs met. We're going to keep talking some more about that. But please do this exercise. It's very important. Now, we have run out of time, but if a couple people have a couple questions they want to ask, go for it now, and we'll answer them real quick before we move on.
Any questions? Like I always like to say at the end of presentations, if you disagree with anything and you'd like to stone me, please wait till afterwards at the car park, because we wouldn't want to mess up this lovely sanctuary. But if you have any questions, we'll take questions now. Yes.
You talked about comfort and from the needs. You talked about needs being met and some needs being unmet, could they be overmet? Could you be overcompensating in a sense?
That's an interesting question. The answer off the top of my head is that I'm not sure. I've never really looked at any research on that. But if I was to think of something off the top of my head, probably when something, if you have a feeling that something is being overmet, that probably is just a symptom that there is an unbalance somewhere else. And so it may not actually be that you can be overconfident or over-affectionate, but maybe if it's only affection in the absence of also discipline, then it creates a lopsidedness. But I don't know, so I don't know.
I'm what you mean by this, specifically in the comfort one, is perhaps being babied, being kind of overly pampered, over-cautious, looking after too much. This can happen a lot in single-parent families, or if the dad is not quite as involved. So it's an interesting dynamic parenting. You need both parents, because the dad is usually the one who pushes a little bit harder, and the mom's job is to keep safe and to, generally, that's how it works. So whenever that balance is off, you'll end up with a son who maybe who's way too much comfort, but he's got not nearly enough affection from his dad, or, you end up with lots of imbalances that happen. Anything else? That's one?
No, that's it. Anyone else? They're showing us 3 zeros.
Oh,
Triple 0. We are the weakest link of five.
This was a lot of information tonight. Did you get it? Did it make sense? I hope it was helpful for you. It's important. It's important. Tomorrow we're going to get into some juicier stuff about Jacob and Leah's story, about your own story, and tomorrow afternoon we're going to talk more specifically about finding your perfect partner. Does that sound interesting? And so we hope to see you again before that.